Thank you, sir. All right, here we go. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys a picture. Don't write this. I'm going to go too fast for writing. But I want to give you guys a big picture view of what we're going to do. So let's say I have all these numbers, and I want to find the average distance from the middle. What did you guys say I needed to do first? You need to find the middle. So now we could use the median, but I'm going to say use the mean. Okay? So I'm going to say use the mean. Here we go. If I find the mean, if I add all these numbers together and then divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I would get about 81. I'm rounding it. Okay? So I found my middle. Now I want to find out how far are each one of these away from the middle. So what would I do? Subtract them all from the middle. So 94 minus 81 gives me 15. 89 minus the middle, 81, gives me 8. 86 minus the middle, 81, gives me 5. So on and so forth. Now, let me stop and give a little disclaimer. Why do we use the mean instead of the median? It could be. The median could be a good number for the middle. But here's the reason we use the mean. The mean is an actual mathematical function. It has a formula for it, which means that in subjects like calculus, we can manipulate it and we can do things to it. The median is not. It's just a simple process of counting from the outside to the inside. There's no math function for that. It doesn't behave well. And so we don't like that. And in calculus, they're always looking for this thing called the derivative. You would not be able to find the derivative for a median function, but you can for a mean function. So that's one reason. That's a big reason. And this stuff is used in calculus. So now we have an issue here. I'm talking about the average what from the middle? Distance. Is distance ever negative? No. So what do you think we should do? We'll just drop the negatives here, Mr. Bailey. Let's say it's just 6, 9, and 10. Well, when you do that, you're saying let's just take the absolute value, which once again is not a bad idea, but same reason we use the mean and not the median. We don't use absolute value to get rid of the negatives because absolute value functions also don't behave well in calculus. They don't have a constant derivative and we can't mess with it. I know that doesn't make sense to you guys, but I'm just trying to give you a reason why we do this. There's another way we can cancel out negatives that does behave nicely. How else can we get rid of negatives? That's exactly it. We're going to square it. You're going to multiply that number by itself. So here we go. I'm going to square all those. That way I don't have any negatives because we don't want negatives when we're talking about distances. So if I square 15, I get 225. If I square 8, I get 64, so on and so forth. Notice down here with the negatives, they become positive also because when you square a negative, it doesn't matter. It still becomes a positive. So there's that. Now remember, those are the squared distances from the mean, but what am I looking for? I'm looking for the average distance from the middle, right? So what do you think I'm going to do with those numbers now? We're going to add them all together and divide by 7, giving us the average distance. But that's not the average distance, is it? That's the average squared distance. What's the opposite of squaring something? Square root. So we're going to square root it now to take it back to what we really want. All right? But by the way, square roots don't behave well either. So we like this number. Even though this number doesn't make quite as much sense to us, this number is good. And so we use that a lot. And so we give it a special name. It's called variance. But for our purposes in this class, I really want you guys to get what's the idea here of average distance from the middle, not average squared distance. If you want the average squared distance, you take the square root of that. And that's the number that means most to me and to us in this class outside of the whole calculus thing it's talking about. 8.72. What that means is, on average, those numbers were about 8 to 9 spots away from the middle. That was the average distance from the middle. So, if I had done another set of data and they had a standard deviation of 15, well, that would tell you that one's a lot more spread out than this one, right? So that's what we're looking at. That's what we're going to be finding now is this average distance from the middle. Here are some steps for you guys. It's the same exact steps we just went through. We're going to find the mean, subtract them all and square it, average that, and that gives you a special number called the variance. Then we square root it to get what we're really interested in, which is the standard deviation. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys to stay with me on these steps. So you guys are going to do it. So have those steps out and read along with us. All right, go ahead and write down this data. We are going to find the variance and the standard deviation of these numbers. Okay, step 1. What is my first step when I'm looking for the variance and standard deviation? To find the mean. I've already done that. If you add all these together and divide by 2, you'll get 25. All right. What is step 2? We're going to, what does it say? Subtract each number from the mean and then square it. Okay, so by subtracting all those numbers from the mean, 25, I get the following results. Now we're going to square them all. And so after squaring them, we get 64, 49, 25, 99, 49, and 64. That gets rid of the negatives for us. So what is step 3? Okay, let me make a correction then. So 38 minus 25 is 13. And 13 squared would be 169. Is that better? Are we all in agreement now? Okay, thank you. Okay, so what is step 3? Average those. That's going to give us the average squared distance from the mean, which is known as the variance. So I'm going to average all of these numbers here for step 3. Okay, so the average squared distance from the mean, the variance that is 53.4. Now, we're on step 4. This is one answer, by the way. You're going to be asked both questions. So if I say find the variance, you can stop there. However, if I say find the standard deviation, I'll use a symbol for that this time instead of the word standard deviation. We have one more thing to do, and that's step 4. What is it? You take the square root of it. So, let's do that. The square root of 53.4 is 7.3. So on average, the numbers are 7.3 spaces away from the middle. Okay, now you guys are going to find the standard deviation of another set of data. There you go. The variance was 100. And therefore, the standard deviation was 10.